the bride never made it to the honeymoon. Hours after dancing with her new husband, laughing with friends, and cutting a 7-tier wedding cake, she was dead. And the man standing beside her at the altar, the man who promised to love her forever, would soon become the prime suspect. But this wasn't a crime of passion. It was something far darker. Something that had been planned long before the wedding invitations were ever mailed. In the summer of 2018, 29-year-old Emily Carter seemed to have everything. She lived in a quiet town outside Manchester, England. She had a successful career as a financial consultant, a beautiful home, and a fiancé everyone admired. Daniel Brooks was charming, handsome, and knew exactly what to say to make people like him. Friends described them as the perfect couple. When Daniel proposed during a weekend trip to the Scottish Highlands, Emily said yes immediately. Photos of the engagement flooded social media. Thousands of people followed their wedding preparations online. Everything looked perfect. But appearances can be dangerously misleading. Months before the wedding, Daniel's financial situation was collapsing. What nobody knew was that he was drowning in debt. He owed money to multiple lenders. His gambling addiction had quietly consumed nearly everything he owned. Instead of telling Emily the truth, he hid it. He forged bank documents. He lied about business opportunities. And he secretly took out life insurance policies worth nearly £2 million on Emily. Investigators would later discover something chilling. Daniel had listed himself as the sole beneficiary. On September 14, 2019, the wedding finally arrived. The ceremony took place inside a historic countryside estate. Guests described it as magical. Emily walked down the aisle wearing a handmade lace gown. Daniel appeared emotional as he watched her approach. Family members cried. Friends cheered. Photographers captured every smile. No one noticed that Daniel repeatedly checked his phone throughout the evening. No one knew he had been exchanging messages with someone all day. Messages that police would later uncover. Messages discussing the plan. The reception lasted late into the night. Music echoed through the ballroom. Champagne flowed freely. Around midnight, guests began leaving. Emily and Daniel stayed behind in the luxury bridal suite provided by the venue. According to Daniel, they spent the evening celebrating privately before going to sleep. The next morning, everything changed. A hotel employee entered the suite after receiving no response from repeated calls. Emily was lying motionless on the floor beside the bed. She was dead. Daniel was screaming for help. At first, authorities suspected a medical emergency. Emily's appeared healthy. There were no obvious injuries. No signs of a struggle. No evidence of forced entry. The case seemed tragic, but straightforward. Until the autopsy results arrived. A toxicology report revealed a lethal amount of a powerful sedative in Emily's bloodstream. The dosage was far beyond anything a doctor would prescribe. Someone had poisoned her. The investigation instantly transformed into a homicide case. Detectives interviewed everyone who attended the wedding. Hundreds of guests. Family members. Venue staff. Friends. No one appeared to have a motive. Then investigators examined Daniel's financial records. What they found stunned them. He was more than £300,000 in debt. His accounts were nearly empty. Several creditors were threatening legal action. And then came the discovery of insurance policies. Suddenly, Daniel's grief looked very different. Police obtained search warrants. They seized phones, laptops, and financial documents. Inside Daniel's deleted messages, investigators uncovered conversations with an unknown contact. The messages stretched back nearly a year. Many referenced money. Others referenced Emily. One message stood out. After the wedding, everything changes. Another read. It has to happen soon. Detectives believed they were reading discussions about murder. But they still lacked one critical piece of evidence. How had the poison been administered? The answer came from an unexpected source. The wedding videographer. While reviewing hours of reception footage, investigators noticed a brief moment near the champagne table. The video showed Daniel preparing drinks. Emily walked over. Daniel handed her a glass. She kissed him on the cheek. Then they walked away together. It lasted less than 10 seconds. Most people would never have noticed it. But forensic testing found traces of the same sedative on items recovered from the suite and in materials connected to Daniel. The timeline suddenly made sense. Authorities believed the poison had been given during the reception. The symptoms emerged hours later after guests had gone home. The wedding itself had become the perfect cover. Hundreds of witnesses. Countless distractions. No suspicion. No immediate crime scene. It was almost the perfect murder. Almost. Daniel was arrested 6 months later. He denied everything. He claimed he loved Emily. He insisted someone else must have poisoned her. But prosecutors had assembled a devastating case. Financial desperation. The insurance policies. The messages. The forensic evidence. The suspicious timeline. Piece by piece, the illusion he had built began to crumble. Then came the final blow. The mysterious contact from the messages was identified as a former gambling associate. The associate admitted Daniel had repeatedly discussed how Emily's death would solve his financial problems. The courtroom fell silent. Jurors listened as months of deception were exposed. The loving fiancé image vanished. In its place stood a man willing to sacrifice the person closest to him for money. In 2021, Daniel Brooks was convicted of murder. The judge described the crime as cold, calculated, and profoundly cruel. Emily's family sat in tears as the verdict was read. They had celebrated a wedding. What they didn't know was that the groom had allegedly been planning a funeral. The venue still hosts weddings today. Guests dance in the same ballroom. Couples exchange vows under the same chandeliers. Most have never heard Emily's story, but those who have can never forget it. Because on what should have been the happiest day of her life, a bride walked down the aisle toward the man she trusted most. And by the next morning, she was dead. The wedding photographs captured smiles, laughter, and promises of forever. What they didn't capture was the deadly secret standing at the altar all along.